before I give you a freshly weighed out bag of cannabis news every week at 4:20. That's when we get into the meat of it, and we discuss cannabis in a positive light. I try to reduce stigma. I try to act really smart, so you're like, well, man, he look at him. Well, I'm just a big idiot. I'm just a mouthpiece, and I'm just going to share cannabis news at 4:20. And, man, wow. And I ain't even going to touch the political thing. That's the beauty of me being non-political. It's cannabis only and only cannabis. But I know people out there are struggling in the stress brain. So before we go any further, mobile mental health crisis response number is 1-800-233-4512. Because if you're thinking you want to run into the pointy part of a rake, give them a call. The New Life Center helps people who are homeless and hurting go from merely surviving to truly thriving. Their aim is to help people in need discover value and find hope. The New Life Center has evolved into a multifaceted emergency and crisis service center. To learn more about NLC, visit their website at www.fargonlc.org or give them a call at 701-235-4453. Again, it's Canna Talk ND with Wilson. You can go on Canna Talk ND on YouTube. After this, with the music, will be removed usually tomorrow. ND for Freedom of Cannabis is the old Facebook page, and then Canna Talk ND on the archives here at RadioFreeFargo.org. You can go there and donate, and I highly encourage you to do so. The station's awesome. They let me do this thing. You'll know at the end of this hour if it wasn't for RadioFreeFargo.org. Go there, give them some money, and again, there's archives, and you could be in Lipstick Tube, California, and be listening on RadioFreeFargo.org. And again, Canna Talk ND with Wilson at 4:20. I'm going to give you a freshly weighed out bag of cannabis news that I'll probably never talk about again because it's post-election, and boy, what a good one we had. Let's not stop. Let's just go right into the music. This one's an encore, Holy Ghost Fire, Paul Cawthon. Man, this thing is tasty. Here we go. Yes, indeedy. Holy Ghost Fire, Paul Cawthon, Room 41, 2019. That is just a tasty jam, isn't it? So I played that a couple weeks ago, and I just thought, well, here on Radio Free Fargo, 95.9, Canna Talk ND with Wilson, bringing all the hits on top of all the cannabis news. I'm going to do that. And at 4:20, we're going to get way into it. But here, I thought, well, I got to toot my own horn. I was going to say, well, last week was the last time I would mention Measure 2. Are you kidding? I'm going to get a chance to gloat, end up going to like, hey, buddy, we got it, sucker. So that's great. So I'm going to talk about how we stomped Measure 2 at the polls. And I'd like to think it was because of me. I like to think it was me giving you the truth. You trusted me, which you probably shouldn't do, but you did. And boom, the people have spoken. We the people. That's right. We the people. We stand up for ourselves. And that was a perfect, case in point where they were trying to take power that the people should have. Because if it is we the people, I'm saying weed the people here on Canna Talk ND with Wilson. I got to say weed the people, but you know what I mean. And Measure 2 was the very pinnacle of them going, well, let's look at what you guys wanted a little more. Let's make you guys wait a little longer. And as we go into all these past cannabis laws, you're going to see that too, because in states where the legislators didn't want it in, and in South Dakota's case, the governor implored them not to vote. They did anyway, so now she's got to implement that very law. But she's not going to hurry up. So that's kind of the sad thing, and that's what, you're going to see, is the very reason we needed to get Measure 2 kicked down the road is exactly what you're going to see happening in these states that pass cannabis in those, politically non-cannabis-ly hierarchies. And it's gonna happen. And for you guys who watch North Dakota's legislative process in regards to cannabis medically, for sure, there, hemming and hawing happens all the time. The next thing you know, 10 years are gone and the guy's dead. The guy died of cancer. So expediting is what they haven't been doing very well. Measure 2 would further that problem. So I think it was like 60-some% to 38. So a pretty resounding note back to the people that thought that was a good idea and they created that. That wasn't a people-driven initiative. That was legislators talking in a room coming up with that, and then use some weird outside money to kind of confound the reality, and that was to take control from the people. Stretch it out. Let them be able to decide the timeline. And with cannabis, we can't do that anymore. So congratulations, everybody. Let's give everybody a hand. Fantastic. Measure 2 out the door, and Measure 1 was out the door too. I just figured like it was one of the same. I really didn't know what Measure 1 was, but it smelled a lot like Measure 2, if you know what I mean. And so I said good day to that. But anyway, so yeah, Measure 2. And I just wanted to point out a note, because I'm a genius, that one of the representatives, I think he was out of Minot, who actually helped construct Measure 2, saying yes on Measure 2. I noticed his last name was Louser. And if you take the U out of Louser, all you get's a loser. You see what I'm saying? Just kidding, Louser. But seriously, when we took us out of that equation, it was a loser, And it just is a coincidence that if you take the U out of Louser, you get loser, and he was the representative that created this mess. But anyway, try again, suckers, because the people are no like the Measure 2. All right? Now get to work and get cannabis passed through. And we'll talk about that. Canna Talk ND with Wilson at 420. I'm going to dust off a freshly packed bag of cannabis news, and it's going to be, a lot about the election, but there's going to be a lot of conjecture that I can use with this platform, and then it's going to be exciting, really stinking exciting to see, how things are going to turn out. Let's see here. I'm going to maybe tell you that wherever you are in the state, I hope you find yourself well. Canna Talk ND with Wilson. We're going to cover cannabis. I got music I'm going to slip in here. I was trying to come up with something really cool, because of the whole post-cannabis. I mean, it's almost like I wanted to play that dun, 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 dun. You know what I mean? Because, man, we kicked butt in the polls when it comes to cannabis. It's almost like if your team just blew the doors off, the other teams of your coworkers, and when you go in Monday, you're going to suck it, right? Because your team blew them up. Well, that's what cannabis did on Tuesday. And it's bleeding into my 420 segment because I'm just so stoked about it, because nobody thought South Dakota was going to push the recreational over the hump, but we found ourselves right up before Canna Talk ND with Wilson. So I got a couple new tunes. First up here is Dumpsta Funk, Justice 2020. That's got Charlie Tuna. That's Tuna with the 2, and Trombone Shorty. Then we got Bust to Bust right after that, and then we'll get right into the beautiful election results. Well, that was really exciting. Bust to Bust, he did True Indeed. His album's pretty good, I'm not going to lie. And right before that was Charlie Tuna. That's Tuna with the 2 with Trombone Shorty and Dumpsta Funk. And, man, I'm right on, I don't know. This is my first show of my second year, or whatever you say. But Canna Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday, 420. I bust you out a fresh bag of cannabis news here on Radio Free Fargo 95.9. And I can't wait to brag on cannabis here, because cannabis was the true MVP. Let's get it cracking.
Yo, it's Wilson from Canna Talk ND. The super awesome show you're getting ready to listen to. I think you should go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll wait. Okay, enjoy the show.
Okay, welcome, everybody, to Canna Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday at 420. I talk to you as much as you'll listen till about 4:45, and then we play some more tunes, and then I wrap it up until next Thursday. And I'm usually right after Side Stage with Trav. He does noon to 3. I do 4 to 5. And in between that is just automation randomness. All right, but Canna Talk ND with Wilson. I'm going to tell you about cannabis in a positive light. And I'm going to start with saying that isn't cannabis awesome? And what's see, I'm not into politics really. But when you hear people talk about colors, like that's not going to happen in that color. The color of that color, they ain't going to let that stuff go because they're that color. I think is lame, okay? Because I think the person is the person for the job. And we made it lazy. And we're like, well, if he's in that group, he's got to be all right. Well, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, look at the whole Me Too stuff. The people you think's good ain't good. All right, so keep that in mind, So I think we should be going on individual integrity unless he's this color, of the state. So, but I will concede this, that Montana and South Dakota, they're definitely a color that rhymes with bed. Okay, whatever that means. But here's what I do know it means. I do know that Kristi Noem came out before the election and implored everybody not to vote for cannabis. She said people were stupid that did cannabis, and I'm paraphrasing. She said she wanted to kill people's children because they do cannabis. Okay, and I made that part up. But she really was, and it came in the heels of her saying, because of a particular color would make her say this particular thing. She said, you guys you're smart people. You have responsibility and American freedom to choose what you want. When she was, relating that to the president, and for having, groups, public settings. And then she turntailed and said, but don't vote on the cannabis is bad, okay? And South Dakota just smoked them, literally, And I know on Canna Talk ND on my Facebook, I wanted to go to sleep, and then the results started coming in. And I said, shout out South Dakota legalizing cannabis, and they hadn't yet. They hadn't yet. And I'm like, well, did I lie? I just told everybody, and it did. I was lucky. If I was a gambler and I pushed 2 to win, 1 to stop or whatever, I'd have been rolling in Bitcoin. But anyway, so just in recap, all the cannabis measures, beautiful. Arizona, 207, cannabis, legal. South Dakota, medical, recreational, legal. Okay? Montana, did I say Montana? Montana and South Dakota, they got both of them. Medical, and so here's the thing now. So you've got a governor who before the election said, don't vote on cannabis. So, she's not going to be a fan of it. She's not stoked that a different color voted, like, oh, you were blue and the red. Oh, no. Whatever. The people have spoken. You got to stop putting us in baskets, in pigeonholes. Cannabis needs to be legal across the board. It don't matter if you're a Christian, and every year I'm clean, I question what was put here for us and how do we get here. Okay, so cannabis needs to be in our reality. Greed took it away. We got to put it back for the sake of our nation, and the revenue, and we'll get into that. Massachusetts, they finally got their $1 billion mark. Get out of here. So anyway, South Dakota, love it, love it. Now, I'm not going to say I cried because I'm a real man. My heart is black. But when I seen those people vote that number, it was cool, real cool. It's change. It's what change is, But even now, I'm a little, caught up in it because nobody thought it would be. Everybody, certainly the people that are in charge of that state didn't think that would happen. They actually encouraged that it wouldn't happen. So they don't have a plan to implement it. I think Kristi Noem's got a quick implement as fast as we can plan so people can start making money right away. So people that are drowning in, poverty can't start to see the sunlight as soon as possible. No, she's going to drag it to 2022. Because she doesn't have a plan. She doesn't even like it. She doesn't know how to implement it. So she won't. She won't, and that's conjecture. But I think that she's going to drag on this instead of seeing it for what it is. Beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. And then the reservation, I think it's Oglala, they had passed legal rec and everything on the reservation a while ago. But because Kristi sucks, and the cops suck in South Dakota. I'm not afraid to say it. And that's another thing. Cops now got to find something better to do in South Dakota. Oh, let's give South Dakota a hand. stinking beautiful. It just warms my heart. In a cold world, South Dakota went against the expectation because of the color. They're like, oh, that color, I won't vote for that. Boom. South Dakota came with it. And so that's, so anyway, so right away in the politics, you got top South Dakota lawmaker says implementing legal marijuana will be a challenge after voter approval. Of course it will. They didn't want it. And that's just what makes me so angry about, because here we go. House Speaker Stephen Huggard, R behind his name, said on Wednesday that the broader legalization initiative contains a number of provisions that will have to be addressed legislatively. Oh, they will? Why will they have to be addressed legislatively? He says, well, you really need to figure out if a constitutional amendment is sufficient in itself to clarify some of those issues. What issues? I suspect we're going to have some challenges to that because it's so long. Even in our legislature, he went on to say, when we pass a bill that's a paragraph, we spend a lot of time arguing about the wording, and then we might come back and in following years and address that. This, though, is a constitutional amendment, so it's a little more difficult to do that, which basically they don't get to mess with it. That's why we had to kill Measure 2, because our little Lofhausens, with the R's behind their name, would start doing exactly what he's hoping they could do, and they can't. Bravo, South Dakota. God bless America. And, man. So everybody's going to be happy except for the people who didn't want it. And apparently that's the whole legislative structure. So, again, they're not equipped. They don't even have a plan, because if they did, like New Jersey, it looks like those guys might be selling like next week, But the governor, he was all for it. Cuomo in New York, he's doing handstands. New Jersey passed so fast. Cuomo said, we're going to get it. It's going to happen. So it's funny because 2 weeks ago, I think I was talking about how it sucked for Indiana to be stuck in between Michigan and Illinois. And I made a joke about how we became Indiana. But we did. We literally became Indiana overnight. We literally can go anywhere 2 hours in either direction, a little further west. And we can land smack dab into legal, rec, and medical. Minnesota, still medical, but it's still something. South Dakota going to be a free-for-all. Now, check this out. How awesome do you think Sturgis is going to be when you can go to a dispensary in Sturgis? When cannabis is legal, doesn't that blow your guys' minds? How crazy Sturgis is going to be. And my daughter said, well, it'll probably be a good time. I'm thinking they're going to spend more money, because they're going to be more with it. They're going to be more considerate. Trash isn't going to happen. They're going to pick up after themselves. There won't be as many, headbutts. The headbutt, average will go down. And I'm here to change the law, not break the law. So I can't tell you that if you do cannabis, you're not inclined to drink as much, but you're not. Some people are, but they got a problem. They need to get their lives together. But in reality, cannabis is everything that's right about what you're wanting for it. If you want to relax, it's there for you. It's not going to talk you out into the bar till 5 a.m. like that shot of, Jägermeister will. You do the Jägermeister, you headbutt your buddy, and then you slam something over the bar and you order 2 more. You wake up the next day not wanting to work. And that doesn't happen with cannabis because it's made for our bodies. I would argue, though, and this is something I've also, stopped doing, but smoking is probably the worst thing of cannabis. And even then, the results aren't like fixed. But anyway, the constitutional amendment for adult use cannabis will make it so people 21 and older, it's a constitutional amendment. So, man, South Dakota did it right. Okay, you'll be able to possess and distribute up to 1 ounce of marijuana, and you'll be able to cultivate up to 3 plants. So that's cool. Upon formal passage, legislation will become the law on July 1st, 2021. But then the Department of Revenue will be charged with developing licensing regulations by April 1st, 2022. So sadly, unless something happens, South Dakota going to get stuck until April 1st, 2022. But for the people that are in the know, North Dakota, we're struggling to get, something back even in the works. And legislatively, I don't know. It's something that could happen. And North Dakota loves money. And man, like I said, South Dakota, I got busted there. I did time in jail because they still believe in the ingesting. They can get you a warrant out of your car. That's pull you out of your car, take you to the jail, make you pee. If you're dirty, that's what they bust you in for. They book you in under that piss test. It's ridiculous. And they get you ingesting. They call it ingesting. It's like the only state that I know of that uses that on a poor guy who's been in California all month. Of course, he's got it in his system. Don't matter. You're going to have to bail out of jail. You know? So, like, I was in there like all weekend. Horrible food. You know? No women. Just kidding. But, I mean, South Dakota really was a horrible state for freedom, even though they claim to be that color that stands for freedom. It was a horrible, horrible state. So now those cops have to figure out something else to do. That is just, I don't think people understand. You should take a moment to breathe in how awesome it is that South Dakota, Montana, that's cool too. But they're the West Coast now, Montana, they're fishing, and pale ales. But South Dakota is broke, hopeless, ran horribly. It's set to keep the man down, not up. You got prison for profit like a mofo. Can I say that? I don't know. If I can't, sorry, beep. But I think it's okay to say. It's just 4 letters. I think it's what it stands for. But anyway, let's not get hung up on that. So the sad thing is April 1st, 2022 is going to be when they're charged with developing licensing. That's the beauty of constitutional amendment and legislators dragging their feet. That's what's so awesome about the people rising up. Okay, so I should keep cruising in here. So basically, that's what you would expect from a South Dakota lawmaker saying that it's going to be a challenge because they don't want it. They don't want it. So, of course, it's going to be a challenge. So here we go. Massachusetts. Okay, so before I get off on a tangent, we got Arizona. They got cannabis. New Jersey. They got cannabis. Montana. They got cannabis. And stinking South Dakota got cannabis. And last or not least, Mississippi got cannabis. So what does that tell people? And I hope it tells North Dakota right now that they stink by dragging their feet. And so I'm hoping that they keep dragging and we can create a constitutional amendment like these other states are, and we will force them. They'll have to. Otherwise, we can fine them and whatever. Because if they weren't going to be cool with us, let's not be cool back. Let's get these kind of measures like South Dakota, a constitutional amendment to force the very state that hates cannabis, hates people, doesn't like people making money if it's not through them to be taxed, now has to legally buck up and do what South Dakota good people want them to do. Because legislators didn't come up with their own way to regulate it. They played the bluff. They called the bluff. And people went out in droves. It's beautiful. So anyway, so I got those all 4 down. So Massachusetts marijuana sales exceed $1 billion since adult use sales launched, regulators announced. They've officially exceeded $1 billion. That's a little less than 2 years ago, regulators announced on Tuesday. So, I mean, everybody knows Illinois, right? But she added that it's important for citizens to ask for transparency where this revenue is going and ensure that it's being spent where the people want it to be spent. And that's what I like to hear, that it's being spent where the people want it to be spent. Because in some places, the legislators laugh. They're like, do you want this money to go to the environment? That's stupid. So we don't want them kind of people, But I guess I don't really want, I don't know what I want. I just want cannabis to hurry up and get through, but I kind of want now North Dakota to get it stuck to because they didn't trust us. They were like Kristi Noem, trying to talk down to us. And North Dakota talks down to us every time. And I get that feeling from you, louser, and the Deavers. Think you're better than everybody else, And it's not true. So stop acting like it, and maybe you could, backpedal and be cool, get some integrity and a backbone. And then let's get cannabis to the people that need it. Can I get an amen? So Massachusetts. So then here we go. Illinois has now sold more than $500 million worth of cannabis products. For the 6th month in a row, Illinois has hit yet another marijuana sales record, and it has reached the key benchmark of $500,000. That's stinking beautiful. Here we go in politics. New York governor says time is right for marijuana legalization, and it'll pass this year. Montana lawmakers drops plan to undo marijuana ballot measure following strong vote. Because remember, they came up and said there was, too many, there's too many blah blahs. Well, because the people voted too high for it, they can't. Let me see if I can't read that here quick. So let's see. A Montana lawmaker says he is postponing his plan to undo the state's successful marijuana initiative, pointing to the ballot measure's strong passage at the polls. 57% of voters cast ballots in favor of cannabis. According to results, she says he'll lay off the plan to reverse it for now. The only branch of government in the state dumb enough to overturn citizens' initiatives is the state Supreme Court, which has done it repeatedly. Say 51%, then that bill would have been a good idea, because then it would have allowed us to say, well, listen, Montanans are a little confused. Not everybody was really for it. And that's the thing. I hate these sideline legislators, We were, if they were a little confused, you guys are all humans. You know what I mean? Everybody's the same. I don't know when legislators became the higher voice of reason of the people, because I thought they were an extension of the people. You know what I'm saying? But all of a sudden they're like, well, those people might be confused. Let's help them. I don't know. I don't like it. And we need a lot less of that happening. So I wanted to mention four more Ohio cities approved marijuana decrim measures, and there was 18 other towns that tried to do it. So it's let's go see what Mississippi's up to, because they had the prohibitionists come with okay, so it was either 65. Okay, 65 was the good one. And then 65A was what legislators implement or put on the ballot so you could have a choice. Basically what Roar Jones tried to pull with Measure 3 back in 2018, saying, if you don't vote for Measure 3, I'll get you decrim. Well, I don't know if you've looked around, but that was a sad replacement for Measure 3. And when I say Measure 3, I mean 2018 Measure 3, not the current Measure 3 of voting fraud, whatever that was. That's 2018. I remember we were working hard, and I remember explicitly she said, I can get decrim, and it kind of made people, because it was kind of weird to vote for Measure 3 anyway. We were kind of in limbo. People still, quiet protectors or whatever. And I haven't forgot that. But that's basically what they did here. They said 65, you don't know what that is, just trust us and go with 65A. But it was a horrible replacement. It was lame, because they don't want to do what you want to do somehow. But anyway, the measure faced a series of unique challenges ahead of the election, so they placed it on the ballot. So yeah, it's Mississippi, man. Everybody, you really need to see and understand when I tell you Green was the new MVP. It was awesome. It was like watching the underdog. And I've been climbing up from the bottom my whole life. I mean, if there was a wrong way to do it, that's the way I went. If they said you got to climb up out of that concrete box and only use a plastic fork, I'd go with that option. So I know what it's like to just keep plowing ahead one day, because you just know that something's better there for you. And cannabis should really be resounding now more than ever, because it's the underdog. Cannabis has always been the underdog. It got cut at the knees so they could sell paper and DuPont paint, and they've been trying to shove the right, easy, available, and accessible thing that I believe was created and made and put here for us to do it. I believe if there was a creator scenario, he said, the trees are for shade, not newspapers. Use this hemp that I got growing over there. And the guy's like, well, I don't own any hemp. I only own trees, so I'm cutting them down. And that's what happened, and that's where we are. So to see cannabis as the underdog, kind of just putting his hand up over the, the collapsed house, all flattened. And all of a sudden you see like a shingle move. And then like 2 fingers are up. And then the hands up. And then boom, their face breaks through and they're smiling because they know there's something better at the top. And that's cannabis. And that's the people that are with us. So I congratulate everybody who voted pro-cannabis. And you're doing the right thing. And we're making progress. So it's really, really awesome. And Measure 2, because again, we didn't have anything directly and specifically cannabis related, but Measure 2 was certainly, was a power grab by Dick Deaver and his buddies to remove power from us. And so they might try to get it back on the ballot, they might reword it because that's what they seem to like to waste their time doing. But they really need to come up. Well, they really need to, get a hold of David Thompson and have him come up with something that they push. He creates one for the legislators, by the legislators, and then ships it through. I don't know how long that would take, but that's what should happen. They should go to somebody, slip a thing in, not money, but a measure, and say, get the egg off your face, North Dakota. Stop sucking. Look at South Dakota. Look at it. Look at Montana, North Dakota. Get your act together and hurry up because the people are suffering and struggling in North Dakota while you play mamby-pamby politics. Who would have thought South Dakota would stink and get cannabis before North Dakota? Slap my face and call me gravel, I'm not going to do that either. But anyway, Canna Talk ND with Wilson every stinking Thursday. 4 o'clock I get in here. 4:20 I dust off a fresh bag of cannabis news. And today was no different. And we're screaming up to the end. I just want to say Canna Talk ND with Wilson's on the YouTubes. It's on Facebook. It's on Instagram. RadioFreeFargo.org. You can go there, donate. You can listen to stuff. You can listen to this right now. You could be in Oingo Boingo, Carolina. I'll stop. I feel like I'm what's his name. I keep making that stuff up. Reggie Watts. But anyway. Oh, wait a minute. Is this a new article? Hold on a second here. South Dakota voters made wrong choice on marijuana legalization, governor says, as lawmakers weigh challenges. Ooh, so Kristi's got a quote. Here we go. There we go. This is great. I love to end this with Kristi Noem quotes. I was personally opposed to these measures and firmly believe they're the wrong choice for South Dakota communities. But there's a lot of communities in South Dakota that are in good shape under Kristi. There's all kinds of land that's just not being used that could be growing hemp right now. Kristi. Okay, so she also said we need to be finding ways to strengthen our families. This is it. Have a family hemp business. Have the kids bucking or whatever they do. And I think we're taking a step backward in that effort. She is on crack to think revenue providers is a step back. Freedom, opportunity. How can people, okay, I'm going to ask this rhetorical question, but do you really think she believes that? Is that really her mindset? How could it be? Do some research, but don't be so horrible. This is about revenue, and there's no stats. It's just she's against it because she's made billions of dollars, and she took $500 from me for a stinking herb vape pen. That's the healthiest way you can medicate. I had to go to jail, $500. And if I didn't have the money or if I didn't have a family, that wouldn't have strengthened me. That would have crippled me. So So I feel like I'm hearing a person who doesn't know how she's going to create all the budget money from busting cannabis people. 4,000 people a month, right? They get busted for cannabis. Oh, these guys would take a seed and glue it to your face just to get you busted on something. So, man, oh man. So go to Marijuana Moment if you want to check out that article that just came through the wire. So you got it hot, fresh here first, ladies and gentlemen. This hour of programming on KRFF 95.9 LPFM is being underwritten by Terps Candy. Terps Candy enhances or relieves and relaxes with the power of terpenes, and they make a great CBD companion. Terps Candy can be found at 14 Fargo Moorhead locations or online at terpscandy.net. Terps Candy, they enhance, relieve, relax. It's candy with a conscience. all around good dudes. You know, you can help them, they help you. But anyway, Canna Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday, 4:20, I give you a fresh bag of cannabis news. And now I got a fresh batch of Eminem here. We got Lock It Up, featuring Anderson .Paak. And then I've got kind of a celebratory song called Bud Like You by AJR. And it's kind of a celebratory cannabis is awesome. Okay, we'll see you in a few minutes. That is fantastic. Bud Like You, AJR. You're KRFF 95.9 LPFM, where it's always 420 degrees here in the studio, but I'm dressed appropriately. So I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me. Canna Talk ND with Wilson. We give you all the hard-hitting news and things that I can glean from the last week. So I learn, and then I regurgitate it all out Thursday, and then I start learning fresh. And then to the next Thursday, and so on and so forth. And thankfully, you know, if I was like a sportscaster, I picked a good sport. You know, cannabis there's a lot of it happening, you know, and it's all exciting. So Radio Free Fargo, Canna Talk ND with Wilson on YouTube, radiofreefargo.org. You can donate. And Canna Heads every Sunday on Canna Talk ND. Pilco gives you, whatever he wants to talk about. I think you can engage with him too, you know, kind of interactive. So give that a check out. And otherwise, meet me back here Thursday, 4 o'clock, 4:20. I give you a fresh bag of cannabis news. And it's sure been fun talking to you guys about cannabis and the positiveness of cannabis and how awesome cannabis took the polls. I mean, you guys had to at least admit that you were thinking South Dakota probably wouldn't pass it, you know, and it was so close, you know, the numbers eked in there at the end, you know, so it's awesome. I think that should be a wake up call to everybody with the sound of my voice. Cannabis is on the move. It's rolling. You either get in or you get out of the way, because it's green 20 is what I'm saying. 2021 is going to be fantastic. And I'm ecstatic to start seeing businesses and entrepreneurs in South Dakota with a positive outlook. They've got like a 5-year goal plan that's in the black. It's awesome, because people need the best shot. People need shots too. And sometimes they're not born with a shot. And cannabis is that shot. So get back here next Thursday, 4 o'clock. I'll open a fresh bag of cannabis news, and we'll talk about it. Until then, be good to each other.